Well, good evening, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. It's Earl with the Leader in Times on a special edition of the High Plains News today. It's election night here in Seward County and across the country. And so we're going to be bringing you some election coverage. First and foremost, our highest priority is to get you the numbers right here in Seward County so that you know who's won here. The polls just closed 1 minute ago.
There you go.
And I was out there today and a steady stream. And I think that the turnout is going to be very good. You know, the turnout of the primary, we were very disappointed just a couple of months ago. What do you think it's going to look like today?
Well, hopefully we got that number up quite a bit. You know, I mean, I don't know, but it was really disappointing the last time that only, 9% of the registered voters got out and voted. You know, hopefully they keep talking on TV about some of these places up to 90%. You know, that'd be unheard of around here. You know, we struggle to get 16, 18%. But anyway, hopefully folks got out and voted because we did have some good competition. You know, in the race, not only for president, but for some local races, the register of deeds, and a couple of county commission seats. And so anyway, we'll kind of see how that works out. And I imagine somewhere around 8 o'clock, we should be getting some results here locally about who won those races.
Yep, so we'll be getting those numbers. I talked with Stacia a little bit earlier, and she said that I said, so what do you think, 8:30? And she said, I think before that. So we'll see what she says. Joining with us here on the phone tonight, we have Rick Yerrick from Missouri, but he's also grew up and spent most of his life right here in Liberal, and so he's going to join in with us tonight as we look at the coverage of what's kind of going on around the country tonight, as some of those states are starting to turn in some numbers, and then we'll see what's happening here local. But Rick, we talked a little bit this morning. Anything you've seen this afternoon? Anything to report?
Well, looks like Georgia, I think, is looking pretty good. I think they just called Florida, if I'm not mistaken. And a whole slew of states, of course, you expect to go: Tennessee, Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi, and the normal people will go the right way there. So Pennsylvania is the big one. There's some squirrely things in this district in Nebraska that I think it needs to be changed, but it looks like we have picked up a seat in West Virginia with Justice. So we need to see that. I believe, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but we just need one more to take it, right? And hold the other ones, of course.
Yeah, so that one, people expected that one to go. Florida has been called for Trump. Looks like he's up by about 1 million votes there. And when he beat Joe Biden last election, he only won by about 370,000. So, I mean, if you're a Republican tonight, you're seeing those numbers, you got to feel pretty good about those numbers that Trump would be adding to his totals from 4 years ago. Even though it's a state he won 4 years ago, it's the areas where he won. In Miami-Dade County, Hillary won that by 30%, and now Trump's winning it outright. So that says something. Of course, they're just called New Jersey after 3% of the vote in for Harris. So no surprise there.
A bunch of jerky boys in New Jersey. We talked about the male vote, the white and the black, and they're not getting quite the black vote that they want. North Carolina, I hadn't seen anything yet flash across recently. I guess it's coming up. I did 7% in with 55, almost 56% Harris, 43% Trump. That's a state that I would with the way the federal government handled the hurricanes down there, but there's a lot of rural states votes out there. But you're right about the Miami and the urban. You know, maybe the tick of these urban communities that are the Dade County huge is going in Trump's direction. So maybe that's going to be. I hope that's a sign for the rest of the evening that these Pittsburgh and Philadelphia's and just Ann Arbor and big. Maybe a trend's going to go towards, and Trump's going to he's going to rule the rural vote in every single basically population of less than 50,000, and so he's going to take of all them. But it's still interesting. But we've got the lead so far in the count.
One of the things that I caution everyone as you're watching tonight, you're going to see kind of three waves. The first wave is all those early votes and everything. Some of these states have those counted, then they turn it in. A lot of times the Democrats are leading in that. So watch for that early hit. You're going to see maybe a Democrat's going to be leading. Then you're going to see day of voting, and then that tends to favor Republicans. So then you'll see the second wave come in that favors Republicans. Then the third wave is all the mail-ins that still had to be counted, and I mean, some of these will be counted in some states until Friday, like in Kansas. So you'll still see some of that as a third wave coming in. So just kind of watch this ebb and flow of what you see, and don't jump out too far ahead, and then don't fall too far behind. I mean, it's Jim, how do you watch that?
Well, I was listening this afternoon to a little bit of that, and they were talking about a lot of people that are staying home on the probably on the Democrat side more so than anything, and I think it's just because of their candidate, But they talked about women are not really coming out like they usually do, and the numbers, the early votes especially, and the larger metropolitan areas anyway, and so. I don't know, but some of those counts are, substantial numbers that they're down compared to years past, and so even though they're pretty good sized, they're not anything like they have been in the past. They might be 300,000 or 400,000 down from what they were earlier, in some of those states, but I think there's we got all night, and then probably some more tomorrow. But anyway, we'll see. We should have a pretty good idea about what goes on, though.
Now they're in Kansas. Surely that's going to go for Trump, I would think.
Oh yeah, there's no question. Yeah. The state of Kansas is going to go for.
Even though when you talked about till Friday, I'm thinking, well, surely that there'll be enough come in.
Well, and that wave I'm talking about is a lot of these states that we'll be watching. Not necessarily Kansas. I feel very confident when we look at Kansas, when we get the numbers start rolling in on Kansas, they're going to be pretty solid. As what we see tonight is going to be what it is, unless there was some 5-vote difference or something like that for a local county commission race or something like that. Short of that, we're going to know tonight where we're going to be right here.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about when you watch some of these large populated states like Pennsylvania, like Georgia, even Virginia, you may look out and say, well, Trump's way behind, and oh wow, he caught up. And then there's still going to be this third little bump. So you got to watch all those things tonight as you start seeing these numbers come in. I see, we're kind of going to keep our eye on some of the coverage going on across the country, and I'm seeing that, even on some of the reports going on right now, that you're seeing some things called because the lead is so big, but I'm seeing some comparisons of a county by county, like how did Trump do against Biden 4 years ago, and right now it looks like Trump is at least making up some ground on some of these counties where he was beaten last time. He's not winning the counties, but he's not losing them by as much. And
Yes.
I think that's one thing to be watching here tonight.
The Earl, if you take the 105 that is in there right now, if you plug in, let's say, you put the Georgia in and Arizona and the Montanas and the rest of the Republican states, real quick, what number would we be at with Texas and Idaho and you take Ohio? What would his number be at, real quick? The 105.
Well, if you add up
right.
if you add up the stuff he's expected to win, and so far everything we've seen called and all that tonight is expected, he's going to get to around, I think, 218, 219, and she gets around 201 or so. But then there's the 100 or so in those 7 states that'll get you over 270, and that's the key tonight to watch, because they both kind of have a path to 200, but a path to 270 is the harder path, and that's why those 103 or 105 electoral votes hanging out there when you talk about Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. When you talk about those 7, you're talking around just over 100 electoral votes. So if you add up the Texases and all that he's supposed to get, and you give her the New Yorks and Californias and what she's supposed to get, you get into the low 200s, and then it's a battle for that remaining 100.
I think this morning, I don't remember what I was watching, but anyway, here's an electoral map, Rick, kind of like what you're talking about, I think, with the states that they're pretty sure that Trump's going to take, and it has Harris at 251 and Trump at 287. So, but I don't remember that.
Trump?
Yeah.
And that map, I've been following that map. 287, 251 is basically Trump flipping Pennsylvania, North Carolina he won North Carolina last time, flipping Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. If he flips just those, he can still lose Michigan and Wisconsin, and that gets to 287 to 251. There's 538 total electoral votes. And so when you split that in half, you get to 269, 269. You could actually have a tie in the Electoral College, but so it takes 270 to win. And Rick, you mentioned it earlier. That's why that I've looked at several scenarios that could have come down to a 268 to 270 because of that one Nebraska district. If it goes for Harris, should have a 270 to 268 in some scenarios. And the thing is, if it didn't go that way, if it was like other states and went 269, 269, it would go to the House of Representatives where Trump would win, because he's going to win more states. And even though it's the House of Representatives, the way they do it is the House of Representatives, California gets 1 vote in the House, Texas gets 1 vote, Kansas gets 1 vote. So all of the delegation would have to come together and make one choice. And so Trump usually, the Republicans usually win about 30 states to 20 states. So if it ever did go to a tie, that would definitely favor the Republican candidate.
I just seen North Carolina. I've been watching it, and the lead is shrinking. Trump is gaining ground. So there's some rule starting to come in, and there's another Virginia. So, I mean, I don't know, that's going to be maybe a stretch, but it looks like it's pretty tight.
No, I tell you, I'm going to be watching Virginia tonight for 2 things. One is to see if there's an upset, but 2, just how close does it get? Because I'm looking at Virginia right now from 2020, and Biden won it by 10 points, 2.4 million to 1.9 million. And so that is a 500,000 vote victory. So what I'm watching for is, even if Trump doesn't win it, but he can cut into that, that doesn't speak well of what might happen in Pennsylvania or in or in Michigan. You know, so if you see some erosion of that Democratic lead, you know, that's what I'm watching for. You know, I'm seeing Georgia numbers right now where Trump's up by about 15 with about 35% of the vote in. But I remember last time he was up pretty good, and it's like Atlanta waits until the very end to turn in all their numbers. So you got to be careful. We got B that just joined us here tonight, and B, welcome.
Real quick, Earl, I'm calling for a nuke strike on that Nebraska area. If
And we don't condone that here on the show.
no, that's much a little humor. You know, he's not gonna drone strike of you either. But a little humor.
Well, what I'll say is, the legislature tried to make a late push to change that, but the governor wouldn't call a special session because he said it would just look too political to do it right now because, you know, 3/4 of the state want to change it. But I guarantee you the next legislative session in January, that's a high priority, and that probably gets changed.
Yep.
And so B, you've had an afternoon. I'm sure you were looking at some reporting and things like that. Where do you start us out tonight?
Well, I gotta be honest. I went home. Some of the polls that were coming in and listen to some of the people talking. I thought it was a good start. I think for Trump. Of course, there's a long way to go, but I think at least we're starting out on the right track and heading in the right direction. So I'm optimistic at this point. We'll see if that changes here in the next 30, 40 minutes or an hour or whatever. So as the polls start closing, it's getting interesting.
Yeah, and you know, that's where we're watching as votes are starting to get counted up and tallies are starting to be made, and you know, it starts off 1%, 3%. Florida's already up past 80. I think 87%. That says something. And
when do you believe Georgia will be? Because right now it's about a 15% lead, and if there's 35% of the vote, so if that trend, even it drops down to, let's say it gets 45% and it goes down to 10, and then it gets 50% and it goes to 9. Surely there's a point to where you can't make up that much ground.
Right, and that's why the decision desks at a lot of these other networks, they have people that know they know it by precinct, how it's gone before. They look at neighboring precincts and they'll know the split is going to be close to this or that. And when they get to the point that there's a point of no return, that's when they'll call it. And so we'll be watching for that. You know, a couple other things to be watching for tonight, I think, early on is to be also looking at the Senate race in Ohio. I feel pretty good that Montana is going to give the Republicans the 51st Senate seat. But there's a chance in Montana, there's a chance in, there's a chance in Ohio, there's a chance in Wisconsin of flipping a couple of more seats. So I've seen anything from 51 to 54 seats tonight. Jim, I mean, when we don't talk about the Senate a whole lot, but that's a big deal.
Yeah, I've heard, earlier that, there was a possibility that Senate could go red, 5 or 6 seats, maybe even 1 or 2 more than that. And, that would be great if it did, and hopefully that House stays the way it is because, no matter who, if Trump becomes, the winner in all of this thing, he's going to need all the support he can get out of the House and the Senate. And if Kamala becomes president, well, we're going to need all the defense we can gather up to, to stop a lot of that stuff. So, I think those House and Senate seats, like I've told you before, those are just as important as that top spot was. And so, if you're in some of those states that that haven't closed yet, you still got time to run down there and, cast a ballot. But a lot of them are closed, probably from here east. Most of them are closed.
we're going to need a defense like the Pearson foursome. Being Joe Green, and that'd be the kind of defense we're going to need. I've been to Texas. Cruz is about it's still early, but 3 or 4 points ahead. That's one that Cruz has got to win. The Democrats have pumped a lot of money into that race, and they haven't called it that. 32% in with Senator Chow, CEO of the Challengers, facing the Mr. Tim Kaine. Is that his name? Tim Kaine, I believe.
Yeah, he was Hillary's vice presidential.
Yeah, he was Hillary's vice president. So I mean, there's within, maybe that can pull out of the hat there.
Well,
but,
I'm watching the Virginia numbers, and they were about 23%, I think I saw, but Trump's down by 3, and like I said, he lost it by 10 4 years ago. I mean,
those numbers are changing too. They're getting closer. On all of those races in Virginia, there was a pretty good spread when it first started out, but right now, why they're closing in on a lot of those races there in Virginia.
Boy, if the Trumpster could pull out Virginia.
If Trump wins Virginia tonight, there won't be a wait for 3 or 4 days. If he wins Virginia, there is really no path. I don't see it for Kamala tonight. But that's a long stretch. Like I say, it could happen. But I'm watching, and look at the Governor Youngkin there. I think he was expected to lose, and he ended up winning the state. So got to watch that. I'm still watching, even though Florida's 90% in, and Trump's 1.2 million ahead. And again, that's adding to where he won last time. And if you can start seeing trends, even in states where Trump took, but he's winning by more, like I say, he won it last time by about 400, not quite 400,000. And now he's up 1.2. He's tripled his margin of victory right now and 90% of the vote in. So that says something as well. Next time you see those Florida numbers, take a look at the raw total, because I want to see if Florida is their raw total numbers to see if voter turnout is higher, because I'll look at the raw voter turnout from 4 years ago. 4 years ago, it was 5.6 million for Trump and 5.3 million for Biden. So that's 10.9 million in Florida. So we'll see how many are voting in Florida now, and we'll see how that number compares.
There's Kansas right there. It's 51
Florida,
Harris and 47 Trump.
That's
Florida
7%.
Right now is 5.7 for Trump and 4.4 for Harris, with 90% of the vote in.
So that's 7, 9, 10, 11, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.1. So that's 10.1. And Trump's holding at 5 point. He had 5.6 last time, 5.7 right now. But she has lost 900,000 votes compared to what Biden got last time. So that seems like that's when they talk about now the enthusiasm gap. Because are people just not, if he scores the same thing but she is scoring lower, how do you read that?
Well, I think that holds true. And a lot of that, I was just thinking a little bit ago. This afternoon, I was listening to old Richard Barris, and he was on RAV, and he's a pollster, but he was talking about the right track, wrong track, and I forgot what he said that was, but it was like 70-30, that the country was on the wrong track, and he said never in any presidential election had an administration survived when the numbers were that great. He said they're just impossible. If the country believes that they're on the wrong track by that kind of a number, why, he said there's no chance for the current administration to continue. So I guess we'll see what he knows. But but he seemed to think that. And I think that has a lot of effect. There's a lot of people out there upset about the way things are, the wrong track. And, what, if you just think about what we talk about here every morning, and most of it is the wrong track. I mean,
Derailed
immigration,
completely.
you name something, just pick something.
Yeah, it's a mess. Surely the people cannot in Pennsylvania, and she will frack when she says no fracking. She'll double back on everything she said that she was totally against. So I hope Heather called in to her friends back in Pennsylvania to make sure that they sure vote the right way. It looks like 51.9 to 40, almost 48 in North Carolina. So the gap is just slowly clicking towards Trump. Just keeps on gaining ground on that. So that's good news.
Yeah, and only 11% in from what I'm seeing on that one. I'm looking at some numbers here from Kansas. Robert Kennedy couldn't come off the ballot. They couldn't get him off the ballot. And 849 people voted for Robert Kennedy. That's 1%. That's a wasted vote. He actually told people, don't vote for me. He said, vote for Trump. And I don't know why Stein isn't on the ballot. Stein wasn't on the ballot as the, but this Chase Oliver, the Libertarian, he got 297 votes so far. This is 9 of 4,126 precincts reporting. And let me look here. These numbers are Coffee County, Reno County, Kiowa, Ellsworth, Ottawa, Riley, Jackson, Shawnee, I think, is the big one in Wyandotte. That's because there's no way, Kamala Harris right now is up 9 points in Kansas, and that's not going to hold. So.
And isn't Riley County, isn't that Manhattan? Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that you expect them to vote for college kids, even though she insulted at one point. She told that that's where they're in college dorms and they have to have supervision because they're not very smart. Even though she punks them out, that they still
got my first.
They're oblivious.
This isn't any results yet, but 36.5% turnout here, 2,093 on election day, and 1,970 early. So that puts us right at 4,000 votes here in Seward County. That's 1,000 less than 4 years ago. So that's just being reported from Stacia Long, the county clerk. She knows how many. Now she's going to. That's only 28 minutes after the polls have closed. That's pretty good.
And there were still at least 12 or 13 cars there at 7. So.
What? Is that what local races are kind of contested there? Will it be just the same old results with?
Well, what we have 3 local races. I'm going to bring them up on the screen. Of course, there's also a state Senate race, if you want to call it that. Jose said he was not really campaigning, and so it was Ron Reichman and as a Republican, and the Democrat was Jose Lara, and so we'll see what the results are from that here. And then you have Tracy Mann, who was running against a Republican, looking to hold his House seat against Paul Buskirk. So you've got that we're watching tonight as well, and we'll put our local numbers up as soon as we get them on all of those races. So those are the local races.
Where's Jim Rice fit in all this?
Right here where I'm at.
He must be running for governor. Oh, I guess it's not.
He's found it's better to be a Monday morning quarterback than a Friday night
That's
quarterback.
right. I already served my sentence, bud.
Oh, you already served your sentence, yes.
Once I complete the sentence, I'm done.
Hey, Virginia, Trump 49.5, Harris 48.8 with 38%.
Yep.
Now that's pretty. And the Kane versus Kale is within 2 points with 37%. I'd like to see Kane hit the retirement mat. And so.
Well, like I say, looking at where I'm going to go back to Virginia 4 years ago. And, 4 years ago, Trump lost Virginia by 10 points. 2.4 million. Look at those raw numbers next time you see that, Rick. But he lost 2.4 million to 1.9 million. So if you see those raw numbers for Virginia, let's see if Trump's gaining from his 1.9 or if she's falling back from that. Of course, they've still got a ways to go if they're only at 37%. And it's hard to know what parts of the state come in later. I did watch 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, when Youngkin won the governorship, and his numbers came in late. So Virginia Republicans seem to come in later than earlier, and then they start to add up there. So we'll see how that
I think
goes.
they just called Alabama for Trump.
And Connecticut for Harris. So again, no surprises there.
The main streets of Connecticut. And with and of course, Rhode Island, or I don't know where Scranton's at. Is it Rhode Island?
Oh, Scranton's in Pennsylvania.
Where Joe says he'd like to get some Republican you-know-what, and I'm going, okay, Joe, time for you to go to the retirement home. It's time for nighty-night.
Another state to be watching, it's not a big state. I think it's only 4 electoral votes, but is New Hampshire. To kind of see how that falls in tonight also.
Governor race looks tight.
And so, that's another one to keep an eye on. But obviously the big prizes are, Trump so far is still at 91% in Florida, and he's still maintaining that 1.3 million vote lead now. And, I think the people of Florida, kind of like him. Looking at 39% in Virginia, it's basically a dead heat. And that could be, a 10-point swing in Virginia, even if she pulls it out. That still shows that momentum is on the Trump side. At least that's how I read it. How do you read it?
Yeah, I think that's right. Because those, like we was talking a minute ago, those earlier votes were a lot of those were blue votes, and the bigger counts. But that's the reason they talk about Republicans always wait until election day to vote. Most of them, a high majority of them, and the Democrats, do their early voting, their mail-in ballots, and one thing or other. But this year, for some reason, that enthusiasm wasn't there. It don't appear, and I think another thing is if you look at, they were talking this afternoon about just look at the people that Trump drew into his campaign. You know, they aren't all, they don't agree on everything by any means, but you know, he had Robert Kennedy, or Bobby Kennedy, yeah. You know, they had him come in, you know, because he was interested in health care and you know, the welfare of the you know, the health of the nation. You know, Tulsi Gabbard, you know, and all of those people, you know, they have certain people that follow them, you know, and like them, just like those 700 that voted for, or how many ever that was you said a minute ago, for Kennedy in Kansas. But, you know, and that's how he built a coalition. And I know John Solomon was talking about that earlier. He said that's how he did in business, was that he was a deal maker. And if you listen to Trump on any of those, most of those rallies that he had, he would say, you know, Bobby came on board and he's going to be in charge of health care. But he's not going to touch oil. He's not going to touch gas. He's not going to be in the car industry, you know. But, you know, the followers of Kennedy, you know, I mean, that brought a few in, you know, a few more, you know, same way with his vice presidential pick. So, you know, he's broadened the party quite a bit as far as, you know, his ability to bring in different people to the, you know, to the campaign and help him make those better decisions. And so, you know, I think there's a lot to that he's opened it up where, you know, before it was kind of a, if you don't believe this way, well, you're not under the tent. So I think he's made a considerable change in the direction the Republican Party has began to go. It's just because of his ability to, you know, get different people involved, even though they might be of different party beliefs and that kind of thing.
He's got a super team put together with Ramaswamy and Musk and Bobby Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance. I mean, if I look, and I said this to somebody today, and I said, you know what? It needs to be that you'd vote for the best person for the job, whether it was Democrat or Republican, and I'm thinking, I'm not excited about any Democrat that I might like ever. Could be recently is it Manchin, right?
Yep.
He at least had a little common sense. The rest of them, from Cory Booker to AOC to the Squad to Omar to you just wonder what in the world. Now Earl, 52% the last time I checked in Georgia, Trump, and I projected he would be a little bit. It is 10% in Trump's favor. I knew he would drop down. I was thinking more, but it's still interesting. I mean, 52% in, and he's still up by 10% of the vote.
Yeah, and he lost it by 0.23.
Yeah.
He lost it by 0.23%, 2,473,000 to 2,461,000. So, you know, that's razor thin on that. I want to bring in B. Ben, you've been surfing around. Have you seen anything of interest that is going on out there?
Nothing new in the last little bit that I've seen that's making any headway. But it's I think a lot of people, when we voted, I don't think I necessarily voted for Trump. I voted for the party and what he's put together. I voted probably for the future of the Republican Party more than I voted for Trump this year, because just looking at the team he's kind of put together, I think we have a lot of things looking good for the future with the people he's installed or going to install in the cabinet and in various positions. And I think J.D. Vance is going to be probably a superstar at some point. Yep. Just the way he goes about life. He's come up from nothing. He's made something of himself. He's proven to be a good spokesperson. He's got a lot of good things to say, and I think people voted more for the party than they voted for Trump. At least that's in my position.
Yeah, and that that comes into play. Being a team player. and that's what we're going to see tonight. Who's coming out for their team? You know, who's going to continue to support their team and be excited about it. You know, Rick, you know, football team, whatever, if they're winning, a lot of people come out. When they're not winning, people stay home. And, you know, and that's what, if you look at those numbers in Florida, like I say, Trump's outperforming a little bit what he did last time, but she's way underperforming what the Democrats did last time.
Now, I did see in Pennsylvania where she's up quite a bit right now. I don't know if that's an influctuation of the. I thought there's some early voting going on in Pennsylvania. I don't know if they haven't got them early votes yet, or they're the bigger counties are getting reported before the smaller counties.
Well, it's only 15% in, and
It's
I
only
saw
15%.
I saw a map earlier, and it had a lot of the area around Philadelphia, which is going to be her home area, and still she was only up by, you know, 200,000 or 300,000. And the thing is, in advanced voting, we looked at it the other day. Pennsylvania Democrats outvoted Republicans in that state in the early voting by 400,000. So, you know, we got to see. They have some different rules. For one, they stop advanced voting a week ahead of time. Like they stopped last Tuesday. A lot of states take advanced voting right up until Monday, like Kansas, but they stopped a week ahead of time. So it's a little bit different how they do things over there. But, you know, that's that first wave I was telling you about. That's that 11% or so. That's that first blue. They call it the blue mirage because it's gonna be blue first. It's gonna be Democrat votes way early. That those numbers are gonna really go big, and then you got to watch as that second flow of same day voting starts to flow in.
Trump's up in Texas about, what, 140,000, I think that was.
Cruz is up by
Cruz.
about 100,000
Yep.
with 51% in. So, you know, there's still a lot of votes out there to be counted. And
Cuellar, Henry Cuellar, I wouldn't hurt if he got beat. That Furman is leading that. So,
yeah,
Well, that wouldn't hurt my feelings.
be
Yep.
a flip. And so far, there's only been one flip in Congress, and that was the West Virginia seat. There hasn't even been a flip yet on the House side, but I expect there will be some, and we'll watch for that. 43% in Ohio. In Ohio, Trump was winning the polls pretty easily there right now.
It's up by 3%, over 3%.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and look at my Real Clear Politics number to see. Let me take a look and see coming into the night what he was projected to do in Ohio, because see, that's up in that Rust Belt area, and that could tell a whole different story if Trump was favored in Ohio going into tonight 9.3. So,
well, his vice president should have helped him out on that.
well, there's still a lot of votes in Ohio. I mean, they're at 43%.
You know,
And so there's a lot to go. And
I was going real quick see what B, Jim, and you think about. Boy, if you think, I mean, I like Youngkin, and I like J.D. Vance. Do you wonder if, I mean, this is what you're thinking about, man, if Virginia would have been that close? Trump would have, or it might have hurt Youngkin because they like their governor and they want to keep the governor. They don't want to be vice president. Something to think about. I mean,
well, here's a rule. Here's a rule in Virginia. It's a one-term deal.
Oh,
And
okay.
so he couldn't run for re-election if he wants to.
I see.
Winsome Sears, I love Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor. I think she's going to be a rock star in that. The next thing, though, is you're sounding like I did about 6 or 7 months ago when we were talking about the VP race. Does this sound familiar to you guys? Because I was pushing for Youngkin to take Virginia, or I was pushing for Tim Scott. And he chose J.D. Vance. And at first I thought that was a bad choice. But in watching how J.D. Vance has handled himself on the stump, and he's rock solid. But B, do you remember those discussions? Where were you at when we were talking about the VP sweepstakes?
I think we all had our thoughts, and I know you did like Youngkin. I like Scott. That's kind of who I was. I really hadn't really studied much about Vance, but now that it's happened, and when he picked him, and I started looking into his history and seeing about it, I think it's a good decision, it's a good choice. I don't think there's anything bad about that pick, so I'm excited about it, and I think the people are excited about it.
Well, he's fun to watch. I mean, that guy
very
is
engaging.
sharp, I mean, and he's came a long way since he, became the vice presidential nominee. But I love the way he takes on the press. If they throw something out there at him that he don't like, I mean, he can put them in their place right quick. And I think that's no more than right. Because we let so much of that slide. I got a little thing here that I believe this was in Off the Press this morning, and I thought this was kind of fun. I'll just read you the headlines, and then if you want to go ahead and read it, you can. But it said, no matter the final vote, this election's biggest loser may be the legacy news media. And there's some pretty good articles in there about how they push for indictments and kind of covered two assassinations kind of lightly, and supported January 6th, and it just goes on and on and on. But anyway, it said that their popularity was at 31% of the voters expressed a great deal or a fair amount of confidence in the media. That's only 31%. But there's quite a bit more to that. So anyway, I think John Solomon put that in there, that that no matter the final vote, the election's biggest losers might be the legacy media, and I think that's possible. I stopped by this evening at somebody's house before I came over here, and they said, we've been watching CBS, but we turned them off because they're horrible. And
I did see one guy, he said, you get over about 10, 11 o'clock and you're going to see the meltdown starting to happen. Speaking of guys that I think has some common sense that I like to watch, is this Harold Ford Jr. I mean, he is a Democrat, but at least a guy versus this Jessica Toloff, whatever her name is. I tell you what, that gal is I can't watch it. I got to turn her voice down. Here we go, 55% in Georgia. Still, Trump has that 10% lead. I mean, if it gets to Earl, 65 to 70, and it's a 10% lead. I mean, you can't come back from that, can you?
Well, I just looked at the raw numbers, and there's going to be 5 million votes in Georgia before tonight's over, and there's 2.9 so far. So what you start looking at is what's that difference, and then what's the difference between where we're at to 5 million. And when you start looking at that number and you start saying she has to basically win 80% or 90% of that, that's when you can start
5
saying,
million.
So what you're looking at right now, there's still 2.1 million votes to go. So it's way too early. A 10% lead right now is still way too early to start looking at that. But I did get some numbers, not yet on some results yet, but Stacia gave us an update that Kismet numbers have now been added to the total. So now Election Day count went up to 2,270. So that added a couple of hundred more votes to the total. So we're up to 38.1% voter turnout. And we were at 9%, wasn't it, on the primary?
Yeah.
So
what's the record for in an election?
Well, looking at raw numbers, we're off by 1,000 because you add these two numbers together, the advanced and the Election Day numbers, we're at 3,240, 2, 3, 4, 4,240, and we were at 5,000 in 2020. So Seward's down about 20% from where we were 4 years ago.
Yep.
But that's not what we're seeing across the state or across the country so far. And if you look at Kansas right now, with I think they said about 20% reporting, Kamala Harris is still leading in Kansas, 53 to 46. But none of Western Kansas basically has filled in yet, and Sedgwick County hasn't filled in yet, and this is mostly northeast Kansas. So, which probably speaks well for Sharice Davids. She's the only Democrat we've got in the 4 seats we have in the House, and she's leading Prasanth Reddy 57 to 40%. So that's only 4 of 720 precincts over there. So that race still has a ways to go as well.
I just seen North Carolina, I believe, with 22% in. I'm watching this on a miniature TV here in my room. I should have brought the old 90-inch in so I could really keep track of things. But 4%, I mean, that's flipped. And, you've seen the highs and lows. Now Trump is like about a 4% ahead.
Plus, I think
Ohio's looking pretty salty.
And you still got to look at on North Carolina, the west of North Carolina, those mountain areas and stuff like that where the flood was hit. I think that area is going to come in as the night moves along. I think they're mostly getting the urban areas right now in the coastal area. So, yeah, we'll keep watching that and see how that goes. We'll see some of these other races. I know that some of them have been called, but it's not about, to me, I'm not just looking at who's being called, I'm looking at margins. So you can kind of see who is gaining from the last election, who's slipping, and so far, there's a little mixed message so far tonight. For 951, Trump's up by 4.5 points now in Ohio with 45%. We'll see if that keeps climbing. The Ohio Senate race is within a point and 1.2. So
Is that the Brown race?
Yeah.
Yep.
So quite a ways to go on that. What other races, Jim, tonight are you watching that you think that could be a game changer?
Oh, I don't know. I think that Sherrod Brown race, would be, one for sure. When Montana shows up with Tester, that would be one. Can't really think anything else, but there's a couple of good pickups right there in the Senate. There's McCormick right there now, and he's quite a ways behind. And
At 13%, man.
yeah, he's a long ways behind there, but I don't know. That's in Pennsylvania, so.
The J.D. Vance, I think, now that I look at it, trying to pull in from Ohio, from that Rust Belt, and you think that, Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania would kind of have the, but I mean, it looks like, the Ohio, but you think there'd be more of that influence come into from Michigan. And I know it's way too early, but, JD, and I know the pick behind that is, hey, I guess they call it the Rust Belt. And so very interesting what's going on. I guess the polls will be closing here another 5 minutes. I don't know what ones are coming up soon, but I hadn't seen Virginia in a while. I think it's getting ready to come up. And you seen anything lately?
No, I'm going to get B in here. B, you see anything of consequence? I don't know if you're watching any other House races or Senate races. Anything what you see is kind of close at this point?
This is the one that I concerned with was, with Cruz and Allred. That was probably my biggest worry. I know Allred ran kind of a pretty ragged campaign against Cruz. But Cruz is holding on. I don't think it'd been called yet, but definitely winning. That'll be a big. That would have been a big game changer if Cruz would have got out of there, because I think he's a big supporter of Trump and done a lot for the party. So that's been the one I've been watching mostly.
Yeah, and I'm looking here. You talk about Texas, Cuellar and Furman. Furman is 51 to 48 right now. That would be an upset. Too early to tell about the Gonzalez-Flores race.
I think that Flores, I think she's the lady from the border. Her husband, I believe, is a border patrol guy.
Do they know how long it'll take?
Yeah, and I think that she was temporarily put in that position when someone stepped down or something,
Yeah.
but she didn't win re-election, but she's running for it again. I believe that's how that one worked out. So, we'll keep an eye on that and see how that one goes here also. Some of these it's the border for them. I mean, do you think that the border B is having an influence on those elections in South Texas?
Oh, definitely, I think so. Yeah, that's a big issue everywhere. But yet, those border states got to be a hotbed for the races, just because of all the stuff that's going on. So, yeah, that's kind of why I've been watching those races down there, especially Texas. So, we're getting close. We'll find out here pretty soon, I hope.
Yeah, I just saw a Virginia number, I believe 45% in, and Trump actually has a slim lead in Virginia right now, which that again, I know a lot of people are watching that, and I say you don't get too excited too quick. The Vindman-Anderson, that's a race that's very tight right now.
That's pretty close, within 3,000 votes or so.
Yeah, and Vindman was the deep throat on the phone call to Ukraine that led to the first impeachment of Trump. So, Rick, I'm sure you're a fan of Mr. Vindman. Want to see him win in Virginia, right?
Yeah. Is that good or bad? I guess I don't know much about Vindman.
Vindman, if you remember the phone
caught me on
call, Trump was on the phone call with Zelensky, and he had other people on the phone call with him from the military, and Vindman was a guy who was supposedly the whistleblower that said Trump basically threatened Zelensky, to look into Hunter Biden, which I think now everyone says was probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But no, so Vindman then didn't get to keep his job in the White House, and so he's in Virginia, and he's running for a congressional seat. And he was favored going into the night, but it looks like it's a dead heat, pretty close to a dead heat right now.
Yep.
I like Peter Venkman better than Vindman.
Yeah.
It threw me off guard. I had a good train of thought, but then I lost it. But maybe I can catch it back.
Florida now Trump's up by 1.4 million. So now he's 1 million ahead of where he was in Florida 4 years ago. 1 million votes ahead. What does it think that says about where Florida's at? Do you think Florida might become the new Texas? Do you think that's going to be a solid red state now?
Well, they kind of like him owning Mar-a-Lago too. I'm sure they like that tax money and all that other economy. My goodness, think of how he's improved the economic conditions of that country down in there. I mean, every night he has a big party, and golly, everybody needs a resident like that.
Doesn't hurt the economy, does it?
No.
I don't know if you've seen Georgia lately, but you're right there, Earl. Some stuff's flowing in. Still about a 4 or 5%, 65%, but the gap is narrowing there. But Kakla and Kamala has gained a little ground there.
Yeah, and that's why you gotta be cautious. Getting our first look at Michigan now, and Michigan, 8 8% in, Harris up by 11. Again, that's that blue mirage that I talk about. Those
About-
first
about
numbers.
50,000 votes.
Yeah, those first numbers coming in are going to be that blue mirage, and then you'll see that disappear, but then you'll see a Republican rebound, then you'll see a Democratic late surge. Will it always be enough to overcome it? That's the question. They just called Texas for Trump. The Fox News desk called that, so no surprise there. But there is some talk about how is Texas going to go purple? You know, there's been some talk about that.
You know, there's a lot of Californians coming in to the area, and they're selling their homes out there for a mint, and they're coming into the. Now in Arkansas, we say stay away, but they're coming into Kansas and they're coming into Texas, and they're you know, you can come to these wonderful states, but don't bring your politics. You know, here's the greatest state in the whole union is Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a red tidal wave that the Democrats just can't penetrate. So not only do we got probably
with 0% of the vote in, Harris has just won New York.
yeah, but you know that's how Oklahoma. You know they're having a little down year in football, but you know it's the greatest state in the union. They got the greatest college football team in history, and the politics are the right way. I do see where Illinois. I did hear a report that the dead have voted at least twice now in Illinois, and you know, stayed apart. You know, and thinking about Michigan, Governor Whitmer, right? Is that her name?
Yeah.
What in the world?
Well, they just called Kansas for Trump, even though right now he's trailing.
What in the world when she was feeding that Dorito to that thing? And I'm thinking, why would you even do something like that? Are you nuts? Are you off your rocker? I mean, that looked sacrilegious. That looked almost creepy.
Well, it's this new approach of trying to reach these younger voters and being on TikTok and all this stuff. But I'm telling you, there's some people on TikTok that are just and other social media platforms, they're just not sane. I mean, they're just not normal, regular people, and I just don't know why you would, you know, use them to reflect, you know, your public policy. But
yeah, let's go on a podcast for Harris gives an interview with some chick on the couch. I don't know what it's called. Gets 754,000 views, which is good. But Joe Rogan, what is it, 30 million? I mean, did you see the huge deal even between the Joe Rogan and this? She went on a influencers deal that I seen today where it said 754,000 people listened to them. You know, I don't know if it's 30 or it was at least over 20 million or more listened to Joe Rogan. And, you know, it just some of the stunts they pull, Fred the raccoon to, you know, that little squirrel to, I just wonder, like I said earlier, it's good versus evil. It's like they're embracing.
I think I have some county numbers here. Let me see if I can share. They're limited. They're not the local races yet, but Seward County, Kamala Harris 1,278, Donald Trump 3,034. So Trump wins 69-29 here in Seward County. Still, 55 people voted for Robert Kennedy Jr. That's 1%. Don't understand that. United States House of Representatives, Paul Buskirk, the Democrat, 1127 to Tracy Mann's 3,081. That's a 73 to 27% for Tracy Mann. And then here in Kansas Senate District 38, just Seward County, not the entire Senate district, Ronald Reichman versus Jose Lara. Jose gets 1,668 votes, or 39%, and Ronald Reichman gets 2,578, or 61%. So those are out of Seward County numbers for the national and the statewide contested races. So those numbers are being reported already. That means our numbers have got to be close, because I'm getting those off the Kansas Secretary of State's office, reporting those numbers. And so that means that she's totaling up and turning in numbers out here. So that's going to be pretty quick to do the local races and get us those numbers. Now, because we have 3 write-ins tonight, what we'll see is the number that the name on the ballot gets, and then the number that write-in gets. Of course, we're pretty much sure who those write-ins are, but we won't actually have a name attached to write-in. But we know, because technically someone could write something else in, but chances are, we would know exactly, who those are. I'm seeing some numbers flash up here for North Carolina, and so far when they're doing some comparisons, like I do some comparisons, they're going county by county, and they're seeing that even counties that Trump lost before, he's not losing them by as many, and his numbers tend to seem to be better in the counties that they're going in depth on. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now Trump is up to an 8-point lead in Ohio, which is a little closer. Okay, I'm gonna break in here. We do have our local numbers, so let me bring these up and let's take a look and see where we're at on these 3 contested races here that we had locally. So we'll start with Commission District 1. Todd Stanton received 441 votes, and write-in received 116. So that would mean Stanton got 79% of the vote, which means he will retain. He'll win his seat there. Looking to Stephen Helm. Steve Helm got 1,152 votes, and write-in got 177 in that one. And then switching over to the Geringer for Register of Deeds, she got 3,014 votes, and write-in got 840. Now remember, that one's not by district. That's the entire county. So those are the 3 contested races here. Of course, Stacia Long was not contested. She won 37-32 to 56 for a write-in. Mary Rose, 3,689 and 56 for a write-in. I'm wondering if a party or somebody is just writing in something just to be writing in something on those there. Russell Hassenbach, 3,618 votes for county attorney, write-in 42. So those are numbers to report tonight. I'll get those up on the screen, but we'll start with B since we have candidate B in here. We've talked about it. Write-ins are tough, and I'm sure that number is a little bit disappointing. But what's your immediate reaction to the final race there?
I'm not surprised. I mean, you got a name on the ballot, and people, some people tend to be lazy and don't want to write anything in. So I'm not surprised by the numbers. But I did have a good time with the race, and congratulations to Steve Helm for retaining. So it was a good run. I had fun. So that's what it's all about.
Sure. Jim, I'll let you talk a little bit about, let Jim jump in here, and these are some local ones we've been looking at. Jim, what do you think about those numbers?
Well, you know, that write-in's really difficult to do. You know, it's just you have to do some different things with the computer, you know, and
Well,
You know-
I've told him this, and I'll keep saying it. That shows just how big of a deal that was. It's hard.
yeah.
And it wasn't that Jeff just barely won. Jeff was the top vote getter
Yeah,
as
he
a
had-
write-in.
600 and some votes. I forgot what it was, but it was a bunch.
That is just unheard of.
Yep.
And so tonight is more typical of write-ins. And the other thing I think, this is just me, but I think when you had 3 write-ins, that also confused it. I think if there was 1 write-in, that maybe the attention of that 1 write-in wouldn't be buried. But when you have
Yeah.
3 write-ins, it's just like, okay, now who's the write-in and which race is that? I mean, it just starts to muddy the waters a little bit, in my view. And I think that had a hand in it. And, you know, the results are what they are. And we appreciate the staff out at the Seward County Activity Center and over in Kismet working the election and gathering these numbers up, getting these to us so we can get them out to you. And you'll see them. I'll bring them up on the screen. Yeah, and that's what, you know, can really throw that off a bit is how is it that you get a total 1,300 votes in District 5 and a combined 550 in District 1. So I'll let you have a little feedback, and I might see if I can get a hold of Todd and bring Todd in here. But Rick, any thoughts on these numbers?
Well, my thoughts are is utmost respect to those who are willing to vie for a position And congratulations to the winner, because a lot of people will just idly sit by, and when good men do nothing, and like the Kamalas of this word, that's where I appreciate Jim Rice for his service. I know it's tough. You're not thanked that much. You're ridiculed, but I have the utmost respect for. How is it spelled? BEE?
As in Bumble. Bumblebee.
Bumblebee. Utmost respect to him for running, because it's. I myself had tampered with it, and we was unfortunately I changed residence and came out this way. But CJ'd been there for what, 30 years?
32.
Or 32 years. Wow.
That run comes to an end tonight.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the. I don't know if you'd look across the state. It's got to be in the top 10 of the longest. Wouldn't you think, Jim, of county commissioners from Stevens to 32 years?
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the longer ones. I remember when I first got on there. Those guys, they were. I remember I went to a state meeting. They were handing out awards for how many years that some of those guys had served not only Seward County but around the state. I was rather shocked. As to the number of years some of those guys have been on local county commission. But that is pretty good. 30 years.
And I like Jay. He was the stuff I graduated my sister, and of course I don't have no dog to hunt because I've been out here for quite a while. So it's just to break that wall down is quite an achievement. But no, anybody that runs, I have the utmost respect for, because a lot of people don't, and because they're thinking, I'll lose, or
it can hurt my business. We hear that a lot.
it'll hurt my business. Yeah.
Well, I know we've had examples of that, and it did. When they quit in the middle of the term on account of that. But anyway, it's so it's not easy.
Okay, I got Rick and Todd on here. So Todd, are you with us?
I am.
Well, congratulations. Your long national nightmare, however you want to call it, is over. You've pulled out your victory. Did it twice now. One in the primary, and now 441 to 116. How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't know. What's that percentage? It's a much larger percentage than the primary, is it not?
I think so. Let me look. I
4 to 1.
I can tell you what she had on the percentages on that. Let me find your race here.
Well, I don't know if you guys have seen it. They're just pushing Virginia to the Trump column.
No.
Okay.
Are they calling it, or they're just saying he's ahead?
They're not calling it, but they switched it from lean Kamala to lean Trump. And that's a big change.
So your victory was 79.17 to 20.83. So basically 80-20. Or 79.
I like those numbers.
You like those numbers? Well, I don't know if you really won, and I'll tell you why. I mean, the county has some challenges. They tried to get a mill levy changed, but they had some issues, so they had to stay where they're at. Which means basically the issues don't go away; they just get moved to another year. And so you're going to have to deal with that. You know what the road conditions are. You know some of the challenges of the deferred maintenance. So, did you think you really won? I mean, you're going to have your hands full.
It's my firm belief that Chairman Carr will now have the ability to get some things done the right way.
And so you know, if you were to say, you know, everyone likes to talk about the first 100 days. Of course, you're just one of five, but you're going to be the new face on the commission. What do you see as what you would say you would want to do in those first 100 days?
Well, I think we need to, if possible, follow up on several of the major campaign issues, namely some roadway work. And I would dearly love to see a director of finance or a budget director in place at the county. As we all know, that little change at City Hall has done wonders for the city of Liberal.
Sure. Now, I don't know if you knew the Gehrig family, but we got Rick on the line. We had him this morning, and you guys both come from kind of the same area. I don't know, Rick, where your family farm, but I know Todd farms between. Is it between?
Well, I think my dad knew Rick a lot more than I did.
Yeah. We would have farmed right next to Winfrey.
Yep. So you're just a few miles east of us.
I recognize Stanton. I went to school with Stanton.
Undoubtedly, you went to school with some of them.
So
I could be wrong though. Maybe I'm thinking of Stanton County, but
so Todd, you know, Rick, you know, I know you're a Civil War buff. Todd's a direct relative of Secretary of War Edwin Stanton.
no kidding. You know, something crazy in the Civil War. My great grandfather. Now my father was older when he had him, and so on his father. Just real quick, Civil War. His name was Simon Amandus Gehrig. He was 16 years old. Iowa regiment mustered out for 100 days at the last part of the war and guarded prisoners in Arkansas at 16 years old. So interesting.
I think at the end of the war, they were taking anybody regardless of age on both sides.
Yeah. But 16 now they couldn't even. They play PlayStation 5 really well, but there's no way they're going to go into real battle. So
Yeah.
Can't even drive a car. Most places drive a car.
That comment got Trump in trouble because, you know, he said that Liz Cheney as a war hawk wouldn't be someone who would pick up a rifle and aim it, you know, and fight that fight. So, you know, there's
of course not.
there's that discussion that's going on. And, but
I think it was Dick's gun. You just had to look which way it was pointing, right?
Yeah. He might have gone, but you might not have wanted to take that shot.
He shot some people before. So, you know, that war hawk deal, and that's right. I mean, it's just the wealthy and the Cheneys and the Bushes and you know, Trump, strength, like Teddy Roosevelt, strength through, you know, peace through strength.
Yes.
The war's under Trump, but look what it is. It went all the, you know what, in the handbasket. Theodore Roosevelt said, hey, I'm going to jack with the United States. That's what Trump's going to bring back. He's going to say, listen here, guys, this is the way it's going to be, and you guys get out of Ukraine, and we're not going to push the NATO alliance. But congratulations to Mr. Stanton for breaking the 32 years held by CJ. And I like CJ, and you know, he went to Southwestern Heights, but I think 32 years is long enough. It's time for somebody else to come in.
So
Well, we'll see what we can get done.
I wish you good luck, sir.
Thank you.
So Stanton, we'll give you the final word here. I'm going to look here to see, you mentioned Virginia, and I don't even, that's not the presidential.
Let's see where
That's
Trump's leading
Decision
Wisconsin.
Desk has it now in the Trump probable column.
Let's
They
see
just
the
called
deal there.
Texas Cruz.
Let's
That's
see the deal there a
excellent.
minute ago.
Excellent.
Trump leading in Wisconsin by about 25,000 votes.
Ohio's called
24,932.
for Trump.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, I cannot believe they've got all kinds of states on here. I'm looking at the Real Clear Politics, and they don't have Virginia.
While you're trying to look that up, Earl, I did notice looked like a pretty contested race for the New Hampshire governorship, and I believe they just called it for the Republican.
Okay.
If
I
I'm
finally
looking,
found
if I'm looking at this miniature TV right,
Finally found Virginia. It's Trump's up by 0.7 with 55% of the vote in. That's and again they were talking. I have to go look at. I have to compare how many more numbers have come in and from where, because if they're still waiting for the D.C. area around that'll flip back to Harris in a hurry. Right now he's leading by about 18,000 votes there.
The last update I heard on that from John Solomon was that most of the Harris strongholds were already in the basket.
Really?
And so that most of what will come in now is Shenandoah Valley, which is likely to be very heavily Trump.
Starting to see Ted Cruz pull away a little bit. He's up to a 6-point lead now in Texas. So that'll be interesting to continue to see how that one goes.
they did call that, Earl.
What's that? Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Cruz.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yep.
see the check mark. Yeah, so that one's been called.
I'm going to have to jump off for a while, guys. I'll be back shortly.
Well, that's okay. We're going to wrap
I'll
it
let
up
you know.
here tonight because we got the
Okay.
local numbers in. And
Take
so
care, everybody. God bless, and God bless America.
thanks for joining us, Rick. Todd, we'll give you the last word. I'm sure you might want to say something to the voters out there, and then look forward
Was
to
that a prompt?
just putting it on the table.
Well, thanks for everybody that came out and voted today. And I don't know how 660 votes for District 1 actually compares to other years, but hey, that's a whole lot better than the primary. So thanks for everybody to come out to vote.
We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks to see what Uncommon is going to bring to the table. So we'll see you then.
All righty. All right. Thanks, Earl.
All right. Well, and that'll wrap us up tonight. Oh, you have something, B, to share? Or, that wraps us up here. Just to review, County Commission District 1, Todd Stanton, 441. The write-in candidate, CJ, 116. The District 5, Commission District 5, Steve Helm, 1,152. B. Simons, 177. And the Register of Deeds, 3,014 for Jill Geringer and Lena Hill, 848. So those are the contested races. We appreciate you tuning in and hanging with us here tonight to check out those numbers and to see that. I saw some of you coming in from Hayes and some other places. So thank you all for jumping in and keeping us up with us here tonight and getting your local results. Still see quite a few of you hanging on with us, and would stay here all night and talk about it, but I got to go home and watch the rest of this in the comfort of my home and see.
And be back here at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And be back here at 7:30 in the morning to deliver you what we'll know by tonight. So we'll see what happens on this thing as they continue to count some of these states and to see just exactly what coming in.
I think I've seen where Trump was leading the popular vote a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
But remember, she's going to win California by 5 million. So he's going to have a 5 million vote lead nationally before you get to California to check that out. So thanks for tuning in with us tonight, and stay tuned with us for more analysis and reaction, and we'll see if we know who the president is by 7:30 in the morning. So join us then, and we'll talk about it. Thanks for joining us tonight, and remember, when you live in Liberal
Or Hugoton, Kansas.
there's no place like home. Have a great day, everybody.